Good morning.
Good
Hi,
morning.
everybody.
Morning.
Nice to
morning.
see you, everybody. I see that's so Inju, Silk, Shabo, Jean. Okay, all right. Let's see. What's today's date? Today's the 25th, right? So that was 5/23, 5/25. All right, let's see. Y'all okay? I haven't heard anybody. Let me put my video on. Sorry, I thought I don't know why it went off again. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, good morning.
I need voices because I can't hear you.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yes.
good. Um, okay, so here we are. I'm gonna do the attendance first. Okay, let's see. Nick, you're here.
Here.
Hey, okay. Shelbo, that's you. I see there. You're
Here.
you're in France.
Yes.
All right. Cindy, you there? Cindy, hello.
Hi.
Hi. Uh, Sichuan.
Is the last name Lee? Li?
Yes, and I'm sorry. I know I said that wrong.
No,
Apologies.
no, no. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, I'm here.
Tell me how to pronounce it or what to call you.
Jeshuan.
Jeshan. Okay,
Yeah, Jeshuan.
I'll do my best. I'm really sorry. I mangle
Yeah,
everyone's names.
no
Uh,
problem.
Silk. Did I say that wrong too? No.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. My name is Soki.
Soki.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Soki. Uh, okay. Inchu.
Here.
Oh, I see you. Uh, Janchi.
Here.
Hello. Where are you? There you are. I see you. Okay, and Juan.
Here.
Okay, good. Everybody's here today. So for those of you who are new, my name's Carter. Nice to see you all. So we'll basically kind of repeat of what we did on Tuesday, but a little bit faster and with a little, more information. And we'll spend a little bit more time working on the code. But before we even do that, I want to briefly look at the Brightspace and answer any questions you might have about that and talk a little bit about the first project because we got to, the summer session is really quick, right? So we got to get rolling, ASAP on this stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go get my stuff ready and then I'll share my screen in just 2 seconds. Okay. All right, that's good, I think. All right, here we go. Get rid of that. Okay, so make it a little bit bigger for everyone. This is the bright space for this class. As I hope all of you have taken a look at it, at least briefly. I try to make it as straightforward as possible. So, info, the Zoom and stuff, the announcements will be here. When you go to content at the top, let me make it so that how you will see it. So the content will be just a list of pretty much everything here, right? It has all the assignments, the descriptions of everything, the video tutorials that you have there. Now, the video tutorials aren't exactly the same as the classes that I teach. I pretty much cover exactly, the same material. But the recordings of the classes that I teach, which are Zoom classes, they will be there additionally, right, for additional information, right? So the first class from Tuesday, I'm going to be putting up as soon as this class is over. It takes a while for Zoom to process the recording, so they're not immediately available. But so this class will be up, maybe later today or tomorrow sometime. So the tutorials are very similar to the classes that I will be teaching you in video, but they're not identical to the Zoom classes that we'll be going through. So, but they'll both be available to you. Nevertheless, these tutorials are there for you to help you to review the information that I want you to remember, to help you do some of the assignments. So that's what that is for. So if you go to any of these tutorials, you have the videos for the tutorials and then the assignment for that class. So that's class 2, that's today. Class 3 is here. There's one video for that and what I want you to do for, and so on, right? If you go to assignments, that's just a list of all the assignments that you'll be doing. Not all of them. I don't have project 2 up here yet. That will be up shortly as well. It's project 2 can be considered an extension of project 1, and we'll talk about that in a minute when I talk in more detail about the project. So the daily assignments are basically those assignments that you have shorter amount of time for. So they're small, quick little assignments just to sort of put into practice what we did on our Tuesday classes, just to sort of help solidify, like I'll cover something on Tuesday and I want you to sink in. So it helps, I think, for you to make something out of that, right? And so that will be, so these assignments, class 3, 5, 7, and 9, they'll be due on the Thursday because I'll assign them on Tuesday. The weekend it just means you have more time, right? So those are the Thursday classes where I'll make the assignment on Thursday and you'll have until the following Tuesday, mostly, sometimes a little bit longer, but the following Tuesday before you submit it. So you have a little bit more time. So those assignments are a little bit bigger, right? But these assignments are not meant to stress you out too much. They're really meant just to put into practice what we did in class, right? So this is really, I just want you to remember stuff. I want you to try and make use of things. And so I think the best way to do that is to practice it, right? And so this is not I said this on Tuesday, this is not a computer science course. We're coding, but for creative purposes, right? So it's not a computer science course. I don't expect you to be perfect in everything, to get everything exactly right. It's just meant for me, if you really want to learn something, the best way to do it is to practice it as soon as possible. So you learn about it in the class and then you practice it a little bit and then that's it. Now the bigger assignments are the projects, right? The project, there'll be 2 projects. One's due roughly in the middle of the summer term, and then the other one, which can be thought of as a continuation of the first one if you want, will be due at the end of the summer term, which is in the beginning of July. So everything goes really fast here. So when you're doing these assignments, I want you to, creativity is important. You should always sort of try to exercise creativity in anything that you do. But more important is just the technical concepts, right? So for these assignments, the daily and the weekend assignments. When it comes to the projects, I want you to assert much more creativity, right, for the larger projects, to much more conceptual, creative exercises that you use with the technical knowledge that you've gained from the daily and weekend assignments. Does that make sense? Okay. I'll talk about the first one, which is class 2 homework. I'll talk about that at the end of class today, but if you want to take a look at it, you can. There are no exams or quizzes. I'm actually going to remove this item from the menu. No exams or quizzes, no discussions, and so on. So, don't have to worry about tests or anything like that in this class. This is an art class. I don't really know how you would test someone over art, frankly, even though we are doing technical stuff, and I don't want to test you over it because, again, I'm not really interested in perfection. I just want you to sort of get a few skills under your belt so you can make some interesting artworks. Okay, let's go to the syllabus. Why doesn't my syllabus show up? Does it show up for y'all? Have you looked at this yet?
Not yet. Yeah,
It didn't let me
Yes.
click on it.
but it doesn't open. It can't open.
That's weird. Give me a second. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Let's see what's going on there.
I think it's past the due date because it says ends at January 20.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why it says that. I'm changing that. It shouldn't have a time limit on it, so I'm going to time limit on it. I don't understand. Okay. Yeah, so, all right. So reload the page if you're looking at it on your own Brightspace. I think it should work now. Let me know. Still not loading. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. All right. So here is the syllabus. It's a sort of same old stuff you've seen before in everybody else's syllabus. Just describes a little bit about what we're doing. We're going to be covering HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are the sort of basic coding languages for online web development. Although it says web design as the class title, obviously we're designing stuff, but the goal here is to make art, right? And there's just a slightly different focus when we're making art as opposed to when we're making design. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as the term goes along. So, if you really want to know what I am envisioning that you will get out of this class, you'll look at the learning objectives, just all the different stuff that we're going to be using. Brightspace, of course, email, Google Drive will be using to submit. Sometimes I distribute stuff to you, and sometimes you need to submit things to you. Brightspace is not always great at accepting large files. And if you have a large website with many images or videos or stuff, then we'll need to submit those via Google Drive. Google Slides, occasionally I might give you a little lecture that has to do with other artworks, which we will talk about, not in this class, but in the next class. So occasionally I'll give you a little, slide lecture. It's basically a PowerPoint thing. Of course, Zoom and Discord. So I mentioned on Tuesday that, did everybody join Discord?
Yeah.
Okay. So if anyone wants moderator privileges, please let me know. Send me an email or whatever, and I'll give you those privileges so that you can, design or style the Discord server that we have for the class in a way that you think will work best. Excuse me. So like I said, there'll be 2 projects. The first project is we're focusing on HTML and CSS, and the second project we're adding JavaScript into the mix there. JavaScript and P5.js. P5.js is a sort of library or a branch of JavaScript. There'll be, like I said, daily assignments and weekend assignments. I sometimes provide readings for you to do, but I don't think I'm going to do that over the summer, this semester, this term. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. So I do want you to participate in class, meaning you should come, you should follow along the tutorials that we do. Attendance is vital for this class, so make sure that you come to class. Please do that because I impart certain information to you that I want to show up for sure in your web pages, in your website. So make sure that you come and know what I'm talking about in this class. It's also to help answer your questions, but you should also think about taking classes as not just for you, but for everyone, and your participation in a class contributes to the whole class, right? To other people's learning, because you may ask a question that somebody hadn't thought about, and that would help them. So it's important that everybody come to class because it sort of helps to create this environment. It's not just you by yourself, even though you're sitting at home by yourselves, it's really the whole class that we're thinking about here. And then how I break down the grade and such. The rest of it is sort of boilerplate things that you already have seen before. How I break down the grades in your assignments. It adds up to 1,000 points at the end of the summer term. The daily assignments are 50 points each, meaning those are the ones from Tuesday. The weekend assignments from Thursday are 75 points each. And that's those are half your grade. So you should make sure you do those because that's 50% of your grade. Without those, you can't pass. The projects are then, since they're longer, are weighted more heavily as single assignments. But so before I jump into discussing the first project, does anybody have any questions about how this class is organized or anything at all? No questions? Everybody's good?
I have a quick question. I don't have any computer science knowledge and skills. Is that easy to learn and process this class?
You don't have background in computer science. Is that what you said?
Yes.
No, you don't have to know anything at all.
Okay.
I start from the very basics. You weren't here on Tuesday, right?
Yes.
So what you should do is make sure you look at the video for the introduction that it's already on Brightspace, but also as soon as this class is done, I'll upload the recording from Zoom as well. So they're all, make sure you look at the stuff. If you miss a class in particular, right, you should make sure and look at the recordings before the next class. That said, if you miss a class, you're still responsible for the meetings, the information that I give you, right? So because it's all here, everything that we do in class will be here available to you. So if you miss a class, and please don't miss a class, but if you do, then you'll need to make sure that you're prepared for the next class, because the next class builds upon the previous classes, right? So today I'm going to be repeating myself from Tuesday, and so this week it doesn't matter as much, but next week and the following weeks, each class builds upon what we've learned in the previous classes. And if you haven't gone over that material, then it'll be harder for you, I think. So make sure that you try to keep up, in particular, if you miss a class. You can always email me, right? Or send me a message on Discord. I am here to help you. That is the whole purpose. Now, I can't always respond to you immediately. It is summer, right? But I will try my best to respond to you quickly as possible. So it can be email, it can be Discord, it doesn't really matter. We can always set up individual one-on-one meetings via Zoom if you like. Or if you happen to be living in New York City, I can meet you in person. So it's, I'm happy to meet with you and we'll just have to set up a time. Okay. I don't have any set office hours. Just let me know if you want to meet and we'll figure out a time together. Okay. And I'm happy to do that as often as you need. So it's, try not to get freaked out if you get behind, just talk to me and we'll try to catch you up. Okay. Again, or help you to understand stuff. Any other questions? That's a good question. Nope. Okay. Y'all can talk to me, you can say no. I do like to hear voices. All right, so let me go to the first project and talk about it. Let me make it a little bit bigger so we can see that also. All right, so I'm going to just actually read through everything here and then I'll expand as I need to, or talk more about different stuff as I need to. Zoom is getting in the way. Okay, requirements, or at the top, nonlinear narrative with multiple possible paths, user choices, and or multiple endings. Okay, requirements. Organization. Make sure that your folder organization, file naming practices, coding, commenting practices are as per instructed in class. Strict organization in both the folders and the code itself is essential and required, it should say there. Now, that sounds really hard-assed. I don't really mean it to. The only reason I say that is because without good organization, it's really hard to make everything work properly. So make sure, and the way that I do it in class is my way. I've been doing this for longer than most of you have been alive. So this is my sort of practice. You can adapt to whatever practice fits that's comfortable to you. But the way I do it is, tried and true for the last gazillion years. I would say until you get accustomed to coding yourself, I would say stay with the way I do it, and then you'll figure out the best way for you as time goes by. So, but organization is key, not only in how we organize the folders, right, and name the folders, but also how you type your code. So that when we type in code, sometimes we have many, many lines of code, hundreds of lines of code sometimes. And so if you have a mistake in there, you want to be able to type your code so that you can more easily find your mistakes, right? You don't want to have to spend hours and hours and hours and hours looking for your mistakes. So the best way to do that is to make sure that your code is organized. And so the way that I type my code, the way my code looks is what I mean, is I think a really good way to start to help you to find your mistakes, because you will make many mistakes. The most annoying thing about typing code is the mistakes and trying to find, like, why the hell doesn't that work the way it's supposed to, right? And it's because sometimes little small mistakes, very frustrating. If you get frustrated, you can always take a break, spend 5 minutes, walk around the block, scream or something, and then come back to it. Okay, but try to emulate to do what I do for the time being when I'm typing my code. And then you'll start to understand, I think, as the days go by, as the weeks go by, why I do things the way I do. And it's really just to help me and help you make sites that work, to prepare for finding mistakes, because even I make many mistakes still. But I can find them more quickly for two reasons. One is I'm very organized, and the other reason is because I've been doing this for a long time, and I kind of know what mistakes to expect. We'll be using HTML and CSS, as I've mentioned. So HTML is a fully functioning HTML, and you're going to be using divs, which we will talk about today. especially a wrapper that functions as instructed in class. Again, I'll talk about that today, and preferably other divs. And all of this will become more clear as this technical stuff will become more clear as the next couple of days go by. So you shouldn't worry too much about the technical stuff yet, right? That will come over the next few days if you don't understand what I'm talking about. All links and images must function properly. It must have at least 15 pages of HTML. That's key for this first project. You need CSS. As I mentioned on Tuesday, and we'll see a little bit more today, CSS is used to style the page to make it look in a particular way, particularly colors and such. Yeah, so again, those are some technical information that'll be more clear when we start working there. Now, when it comes to you submitting your project, I want you to make sure that you come back to this information page about the project as you're making your page, and you make sure that you check off all the boxes that you're, yes, I'm doing that, yes, I'm doing that, yes, I'm doing that too, okay? Because this is how I'm going to be grading your work. There will be a rubric that will be available for you to look at too, as to shows you how I grade the projects as well. So so research is the first step for the project that you can start doing immediately. So what are we making? We're making what's called a non-linear narrative. A non-linear narrative is a narrative approach used in film, literature, websites, and other narratives where events are portrayed, for example, out of chronological order or in other ways. In this sort of narrative, it does not follow a directly causal pattern from one event from one moment to the next. There may be, for example, parallel distinctive plot lines, dream sequences, another story inside the main story, or multiple possible endings. The way I'm imagining your projects, for example, is that you create a narrative and that you give the user options, choose this or choose that. And if they choose this, then the narrative goes in one direction. If they choose that, the narrative goes in another direction. And then you'll give them other options. And then so the narrative starts to branch out in multiple possible ways. In this project, you will create a narrative that has multiple possible endings based on the interaction of the user, viewer, reader. That means that the user will have choices, and those choices will determine what the user will see and in which order. In addition to HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you may use other applications, sorry, I have to edit this, that you wish to create or derive your graphics, text, images, such as Photoshop for image preparation and Illustrator for creating graphics. You don't have to, but you can, or others that you may need. Make sure that you have 15 pages or more of text and or images in your narrative that you've hand-coded with HTML, styled with CSS, and made interactive with JavaScript. The JavaScript part is not required for this project. You should consider how to create a coherent aesthetic to your project. However, I have rules, so you can always break the rules if you have a good reason. So if you want to do something that's different or seems different from what I want you to, then talk to me, and I am open to other ideas for you to break the rules. But you should talk to me first, because that way I know what you're planning and we can figure out a way to make it work for this project. You should consider how to create a coherent aesthetic to your project. However, if you choose not to have any sort of coherent aesthetic, you should then consider how that would be achieved. You might consider a unique way to present a narrative, but if so, how do you do this? You might consider in what field your narrative would fit. Is it fiction, poetry, gaming, social media, sound, music, or something else? If so, what are the conventions of that field and how will you respond to them? The first thing you should do is look at these sites for examples of nonlinear narratives, the ones that we see here, text games, alternative narrative forms, and challenges to conventional website UI. All right, so these are the whole bunch of examples that I have here. I may put more. Some of these are from early days of web production from the 90s, for example, that are important in the history of internet art. So I would take a look at them and see what you can gain from them for your own, to get ideas about what I'm thinking about for this project. Okay, so that's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to look at the different examples of nonlinear narratives. You can use, you should definitely look at all of these, but you can also think of other things, right? If you don't, in addition to what I give you, there might be things that you find yourself. Step 2, now this will be due, so this is due on the 30th, right, which is next Tuesday. So you should do your research before next Tuesday. And also due that day is a statement. Basically the statement is what you plan on doing for your project. Write a brief statement of 5 to 7 sentences that describes your project and your ideas. Outline your narrative, right? I mean, like, what's going to happen, an outline of it. Basic stuff. You don't have to do into super, too much detail. The more detail you do, the better, but it's not required for this first part. Now you can email it to me ahead of time if you want. I'll try to get to it if you don't email me like 5 seconds before. But you can, if you want me to look at it before you submit it, that's fine. It's not necessary, but it's fine. We will talk about them in class though. Okay, so that's due on the 30th. I'm going to add one other thing here. You should also, in addition to talking about your narrative and your ideas, you need to also tell me what your inspirations are, or what you're thinking about, what sort of gave you some ideas about what you want to do. And you should choose something from this list, at least one that sort of affects your thoughts on your story. Okay, but I'll put that in there before the class, at the end of class. Now, this is not something you're going to have to turn in. This is really just a timeline, right? This is something you're going to have to turn in. That you have to submit on Brightspace. It's called the proposal, right? This is your proposal. The step 3 is you will not be submitting this, but it's me helping you to keep on target, right? You'll need at least a week to make your project, right? Which is due on the 13th. And so you need to collect all of this before or most of this anyway, before you start your project. So this is really me just saying, okay, have this, do this, then you have time to make your project. It's me helping you to set up a process of making the work so that you have enough time to do it. So again, this is not something you'll be submitting to me. This is, however, you do need to have this by Tuesday, but by the beginning of class on Tuesday. Okay. And there's the information about that, right? The proposal. Write a brief statement of 2 paragraphs. I think I changed it a little bit. I have to fix that. So that's really what you will be due on Tuesday. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? I mean, I'm sure it's not really clear exactly what I mean. What you'll need to do in order to really find out what I mean is to look at these examples. But the basic idea here is a nonlinear narrative with multiple possible paths, user choices, and/or multiple endings. Okay. All right. Any questions? Anything at all, even if it sounds stupid?
Not really.
Tell me. Excuse me? Did you have a question?
Me? No.
No, you said you understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Nobody? Yes, no, maybe. Are y'all there?
No.
Wow, y'all are super not communicative. Why is everybody so quiet? Is it too early?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. So that's it. Make sure you take a look at that, and then if you find you have questions, just send a message on to me by email or maybe or Discord, because maybe other people have the same question. You can talk amongst yourself. I encourage you to help each other with stuff as well. That's why we have the Discord. So take advantage of that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so I can set up my stuff for the next part of the class. All right, so that is a boring administrative stuff with this class, the syllabus and Brightspace and all of that. Now maybe a little bit more interesting is when we get into the code, right? So I sent an email to those of you who weren't here on Tuesday. I asked you to download an application called Sublime Text and install it. Did you do that? Yes, no? I saw surprised eyes from one person. If you haven't done that, you need to do that right now, and I'll give you the link. Hold on a second. So this is something you need to do right now to download and install, because that's what we're going to be using to type our code. There are other code editors that you could, if you know others, you can use a different one. I don't care which one you use, really. It just helps for new people who haven't coded before. If your code looks different from mine, or let's say if it's a different color from mine, sometimes that confuses people. But it really doesn't make a difference if you use a different code editor. So whichever one you like the best. If you already have one and you already know what I'm talking about, you don't need to download this. If you already use this, you don't need to download it again. If you have another one you prefer, feel free to use that. Okay. So let me set my stuff up again, as I told you. Okay. All right, so let me share my screen. Okay, so I have a folder for this class, which I call su23 for summer 23, right? And so this is what I'm talking about when I talk about folder organization. I highly recommend that you be as organized as possible when you're creating your folder system. So like I said, I have my main folder for this summer, which is su23. I'm only teaching one class, so that's this class. Tuesday, I did a tutorial, and so that's the tutorial from Tuesday. Today, I have another folder, which I call tutorial 2, right? So for each class that I give you a tutorial, I'll have a new folder. That's the way I prefer that you keep yourself organized. because then you can go to each class or each tutorial to find the material, right? You don't have to name it tutorial 1 or tutorial 2. You can call it something else, like the date, right? You might put the date there instead so that you know which day we did that. It's entirely up to you, the specific organization and the specific naming practices, but try to, every tutorial that I give you, you should create a folder for it. You should also notice, if you look closely, that I don't put spaces in the names of my folders. When you're working with web files and folders, you should not use spaces. Everybody hear me? Do not use spaces, no spaces. You can use underlines, you can use dashes, but not spaces, okay? The reason for that is when you upload your web stuff to online, your project, the server technology sometimes misreads spaces, or even sometimes you put 2 spaces instead of 1, and it's hard to tell whether there's 2 spaces or 1 space, but the computer considers 2 spaces 2 different characters, and those are really hard to discern. But in addition to that, sometimes the server technology doesn't recognize spaces. So make sure that you don't use spaces when you're naming your folders and when you're naming your files. No spaces, okay? So that's why I have the little underline between the word tutorial and 1, right? So that, because I'm not going to be using spaces. So today's class, I'm calling tutorial 2. That's my folder for today. So if you should create a folder for today, name it what you like, but don't use spaces. And then you should open it. So now I'm inside my tutorial 2 folder. Here, just like if you were here with us on Tuesday, I created 3 folders, right? And those 3 folders are CSS, HTML, and images. Now, there may be additional folders that I create in the future, but for today, we should start with that. We need to be organized, so we segregate or separate our different types of things, different types of files into different folders. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Tell me to
Yeah.
stop. Tell me to stop or repeat myself if I go too fast, okay? Make sure you do that. If I don't, if I don't hear anything from you, I think everything is great and I'm just going to go on, right? I can end up going super fast. So tell me to stop, please, if I go too fast. Okay, so this is our setup for today. Now, when we open up the code editor, Sublime Text is what I'm going to be using. We'll be opening up this folder, tutorial 2, in the code editor. Let me show you how I do it in a Mac. In PCs, it's slightly different because it looks a little different. The same idea, but it's slightly different. So if you can't figure out how to do it in your PC, just stop me and I'll try and help you. In a Mac, we start by opening up the application first. There's another way that I'll show you shortly if you want to do it that way too in a Mac. So I'm going to open up by just clicking on my application, which is Sublime Text. To open up Sublime Text, it opens up over here. What will open, if you've opened it before, is the previous project, right? So the previous project that I was working with is tutorial 1 from Tuesday. But I'm not working with that today. So I don't need to open that. What I want to do is open up a new project. So I'm going to go to the File menu. And I can open I can open up folders and files in a Mac. So I click on Open. I think you can do that on PCs too. I go to Open. and I'm going to go to my desktop and all my, I have a very complicated folder system. Just give me a second. Okay. So there's my folder right there, tutorial 2 that I just created here, right? Tutorial 2, tutorial 2. So I'm going to click on that. I don't need to click on the other folders, CSS, HTML, or images, just the main folder for today, which is tutorial 2. Oops. So click on that. Don't need to click on anything else, just on the tutorial 2 folder and click open. Now, this is the other thing that I had open before, which I don't need, so I'm going to close that. So this is what I need to have open. You all with me? So good?
Yeah,
Good.
thank you.
All right. If you're on a PC and you're behind, let me know. Please do. Don't be shy. You can't be shy in a class like this. Okay. So this is us working in Sublime Text, which is a code editor. A code editor is basically plain text, but it has line numbers and color coding. So stuff that help you type your code, to understand your code, and to find your mistakes. Okay, so this is our first file that's automatically open here. It says untitled at the top here. I'm going to go ahead and save this file so it has a name. So we're going to go to File, Save As. Since it's the first time we're saving something, we need to go to Save As. It's saving it. Make sure it's saving it in your tutorial 2 folder or whatever you named it. Don't click on one of these folders because we're not saving it. We are not saving it in the HTML folder. This is an HTML file, but we will not be saving it in the HTML folder. I'll talk about that why later. So I'm putting it in my tutorial 2 folder, and the name that it must have, you have to name it this, is index.html, not index 1, not index 2, not index 5, just index. Index, then a dot, then HTML. Then you click on Save. And you see, if you have your folder window open, you'll see that it's right there. You also will see that it's right here in the side the sidebar of Sublime Text. I keep both my Sublime Text, so this is the interface for Sublime Text here, and this is my folder window here. I keep them both open. It helps me to navigate from one, because I'm going to be going here often. So I need to be able to, and it also helps me to say, oh yeah, there it is. It's right there, right? It's in the right place. It's where it needs to be. Okay, so let's start typing the code. The very first thing you have to type is this. Is that big enough for you to see?
Yeah.
Okay. I can make it a little bigger just in case. Okay, so what this is a line of code. It's technically not HTML, but this is a line of code that tells the web browser. The web browser is going to be reading this, right? The web browser is how we view web pages. And we're making a web page. What the web browser will do is it will read the code. And it starts at the first line. And the first line is telling it which code we're using. This is what we call the document type declaration. It declares to the browser, hey, this is a particular version of HTML. And the version of HTML we're using is named HTML5. And so this is the doc type declaration or document type declaration for HTML5. If we were looking at a different version of HTML, and when there are many of them, we would have a different document type declaration. It would look a little different from this. So this tells the browser how to read the code, essentially, right? It's saying, okay, we're typing it in HTML5. This is the way I'm going to read the code in a particular way. Okay, that has to come first. The next thing is this, and then this. So these two things are called tags. There are many of them in HTML. Basically, what HTML is composed of are things called tags. And the tags are markers. They may be an abbreviation, right? This is an abbreviation. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. You don't need to know that if you don't want to. Hypertext Markup Language. So this is an abbreviation. Sometimes they're abbreviations. Sometimes they're words. Sometimes that's just a letter, right? So the tags are markers in a way, and they mark things. They say, okay, this is the beginning of something, and this is the end of something. So this is a marker for the beginning of the document. It's kind of weird to think of that, but the browser needs to know where the document begins. And this is us telling the browser where the document begins. This is telling then where the document ends. Notice it's the same as the first one. So they come in, most of them come in pairs like this. The second one is always going to look like the first one. The only difference is it's going to have a little slash in front of it. So that is what we call a tag pair, because it's a pair of tags. The first one marks the beginning of something. The second one marks the end of something. And this is the beginning and end of the document, which means that we're going to type the entire document between these two tags. Everything else that we type will be between these two tags. We won't type anything underneath it, okay? Nothing, because this is the end, right? There's nothing beyond the end. Okay, and nothing above either, right? Okay. Now, every single document you will type has two sections. The head section, and it's a tag with a pair as well. Oops. And the body section. So head has a pair, body has a pair. They must come in this order. The head always comes above the body. Notice I've got space in front of these four tags. That's because they're inside the HTML, right? Do you see how that's inside that, between them? This is what we call nesting. So the head and the body are nested or inside or between the HTML tags. When I do that, I always put space here. This is a tab. On your keyboard, there's a tab key. Just tab in. So that way you can see, hey, you can actually see the organization of your code. What is inside of what, right? And the head and the body are inside the HTML. Okay, next. Inside, nested within the head section, we have the title. And I'm going to call it tutorial 2. So I type the title tag that tells the browser, hey, this is the beginning of the title. Then I type the title. And then I have to type the pair, right? The closing pair of title. And that tells the browser the title is done, right? We're about to see the title. Here is the title. The title is finished. If I didn't put this tag, then the browser is going to think all of this is the title because it doesn't know where to stop, right? So we have to put it there so that it knows where to stop. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I don't have to save as. I just need to save it. In a PC, that's Control S. In a Mac, it's Command S. You can also just go to File, Save. But I suggest that you start using the keyboard commands because it makes things go faster. So for a PC, it's Control S, and for a Mac, it's Command S. So that updates, because we added a whole bunch of stuff, that updates the file. Now I want to open the file. So I'm going to double click on it. I'm going to take it out of my other sec. So it's blank right now. I make it small for the time being. Let me change my window too. Sorry, I'm just reorganizing things so that we can see stuff better. All right, so it's blank right now because we haven't put anything here. The only thing we have is the title. You see the title right here? That's this title right here. Everybody have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you can change the title to whatever you want. Go ahead and change your title. So I'm going to say, rename it to, I don't know, what do we name it? Sunny day. So if you make a change, then you save it, right? Command or Control S. And then you go to your browser, this window right here. Notice it hasn't changed. It's still in the old title. I have to reload the page, which is this button, or you can type Command or Control R. Command or Control R will reload your page. And now we see the new title. So that's the process, right? We edit the page, right? We make changes or add additions here, and then we save it, and then we reload the browser. So make changes, save it, reload the browser. Make changes, save it, reload the browser. We do that over and over and over again. That's the process. Okay. We need to make a few more additions to the top of the document before we start putting things here in the document. So in the HTML tag, we need to put another term. Now, some tags will have, right now we just have one term, right? In the tag, it just says HTML. But sometimes we need to put more stuff between the brackets, right? These are the angle brackets. Sometimes we need to put more information there that the tag requires to work better. The HTML tag, in order for the browser to work better, it needs to know which language we are using. For this class, you can type whatever you like, but for this class, we're using English. So we put a space after HTML, and we type another word, and it's lang for language. This is what we call an attribute. If you put more than one word between the angle brackets, right, between these little blue things, this is called an attribute. All attributes are followed by an equal sign and then quotation marks. And then we have to type something between the quotation marks. In this case, we type abbreviation for the language that we're using, and we're using English, right? So EN for English. I honestly don't know what all the other abbreviations for different languages are, so you can look that up. But if you speak Italian, it's IT. If you speak Spanish, it's SP, right? So there are different abbreviations for different languages. Okay. So I made a change. I can save it. It's not going to change anything here, right? Because we haven't added any content. It doesn't change anything. It just This helps the browser to work better. Another thing that helps the browser to work better is nested between the head tags, and it's above the title. So I'm going to hit enter there. And right above the title, I'm going to type something else. This is what we call a meta tag. So do you guys know what metadata is? Metadata? I'll type that in chat. Has anybody ever heard that word?
I think so. A little bit.
Tell me.
Yeah.
What do you think it is? It's okay if you're wrong. It doesn't matter.
I think it's just like I don't know how to explain it. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's kind of weird, right? I don't know.
Okay, so for example, when you're playing music on your computer, there's the information about the music, right? Who wrote the music, who's singing it,
Right, yeah.
maybe how long it is, when it was written, blah blah blah, right? All that information. That's not the music, right? That's about the music.
Mm-hmm.
And the music itself is in the computer, which means it's data, right? So everything we're looking at in the computer, whether it's text or video or images or music, everything is data. So when we're talking about metadata, it's information about the data. So in the case of music, it's information about the music, but information is data. So it's data about data. And the word metadata is data about other kinds of data, or information about information. Essentially, everything we put in the head section is metadata. So we can have meta tags. You can have many meta tags. Meta tags is you telling us about the information in the web page. Now, you don't have to, but except for one. The one I'm about to show you is the one that's required. Hold on a second. I'm having a problem here. All right. So the meta tag, though, requires attributes, right? We have an attribute here for the HTML tag. The meta tag requires attributes. And the one I'm going to use for this first meta tag, and I'll show you more meta tags when we go along. But the meta tag, the only one that's absolutely required that you have to type is this one. And then we type a space. We're at another attribute. This is called char set or character set. Char set or character set refers to the set of characters that we're using to type the code. And the character set has a name. The names that we give the character set that we're using, standard keyboard, is UTF-8. You don't have to remember all this. All that you need to know is that you have to type that, right? All that you need to know is that you have to type that. If you're interested in what it means, you can look it up or ask me. But essentially, this is the name of a character set. And when I'm talking about character sets, it's all the stuff that you type on your keyboard, right? The letters, the punctuation, all that stuff, right? Essentially, it's a set of characters. There are other character sets, believe it or not. Okay, that's what we're using. Again, I'm going to save this. Command S or Control S. I can reload if I want, but nothing changes because we haven't added any context yet. By the way, if you weren't here on Tuesday, I didn't talk about this or this on Tuesday. This is new today. Okay. Next, we're going to add something to the body. And I'm not going to talk too much about what this means now, but next week we'll talk more about it, and I'll show you how it works better. I need to show you more stuff before I talk about this, but this is something you have to type. Okay, at least for the most of the times. Inside the body, we're going to type a pair of tags called div tags. div. Now we're putting this in the body. Everything we put in the body is for the most part visible in the page here, right? Notice nothing really in the head section is visible except the title, right up here. But what's down here is everything we type in the body. But the div tag doesn't do anything by itself. So if I save this and reload the page, nothing happens. What does the div do? So the div tag we can use many times in a page. The div tag is about dividing the page into sections. So for example, when we divide the page into sections, you can divide it up into little rectangles. Think of a bento box, for example, right? You have a bento box, you have a little thing for the entree, a little thing for the side dish, something for soup, right? You have these little boxes for different types of food, right? And all of them are in a bigger box. So here we can do that in HTML, and we will, right? We'll divide the page up into different little rectangular sections. And the div tag allows us to do that. Now, this div tag is going to, this is our main box. This is our big box, right? That's the box that all the other little boxes are inside, right? So this is, you can also think of this as like a grocery bag, right? If you go to the grocery store, you're not going to carry everything in your arms, right? You don't put your fruit and the vegetables and you carry them around like this, right? You put them in a bag, right? So that you can carry them better. Why? You can move all of them at once. This div tag is going to have everything inside of it. Why would we do that? Well, imagine, what if we wanted everything to disappear? Well, all we would have to say is tell this div tag to disappear, and everything inside of it will disappear. Let's say we wanted to move everything together, right? In a kind of animation. We could say, hey, div tag, move to the left or move to the right. And so that then everything inside of it will go with it. So all of that stuff is the div tag will help us do. So I encapsulate or surround or wrap everything in this div tag. And I'm going to give this div, since we can use the div tag many times in a single document, we need to give them names. And this is going to have, or what we call IDs. So this tag is going to have an attribute called the ID attribute. All attributes have an equal sign and quotes. And then we're going to give it a name. You can literally name it whatever you want. You can name it Fifi, you can name it Josh, I don't care what you name it, but typically you name something for what its function is, right? And this is going to be called the wrapper because it's wrapping around everything. You can name it container, you can name it box, I don't care what you name it. Just name it something that tells you what it is and remember it. And this is something I always do. So I would say, think of a name and just use that all the time when you create the main div. You could call it main, whatever you want to call it. I call mine wrapper. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Again, nothing has changed. We'll see how that helps us though later, even today. Now, once again, so this is when you're making a web page, start with this. It's these 12 lines of code you need in every single page, every single page. So this is what I would do, and what I'm going to do is I save this, and then I save it again. File, save as. Actually, no, let me do it something else. Cancel. I'm going to go to my folder here, and I'm going to duplicate it. So I have one now, it's called index copy. I'm going to rename that to template. You guys know what a template is, right? A template is like the pattern that you can use for many things, right? And so this is my template for every index. Every day that I'm in class, for every page, for every HTML page, it starts this way. So this is going to be my template for every single page that I make. Now, sometimes it might be a little bit different, but mostly like 99% of the time, it's going to look just like this. So I'm going to put this template out here, right? It's going to be next to my tutorial folders. So I'll use this every day. I just have to rename it to index or whatever the name of the file is. Do you understand what I've just done? So I made a copy of the index, which is this right here. I renamed it template. So now tomorrow, Tuesday next week, or even later, if I have to make another page in class, then I just use a template instead of having to type all this all over again, right? I'll just use the template and rename it. Okay. You don't have to do that. That's just an easy way, an efficient way of working. That way you don't always have to read. This is not a ton of code, but that way you don't have to type it over and over and over again. Okay. So this is our index. Let me go back to the other way of looking at it. Yeah, if you got questions, blurt it out first, sure.
How can I add another language?
So how about at the end of the class we talk about that? Because I have because I have to look it up because I don't know. I always use English. So probably why don't let's just do that right now. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. I'll type this in chat. So if you're typing in another language and you want the abbreviations or the accents to be done properly, the different language marks, then you'll use the correct language. And so that way HTML knows, right, how to do that. It doesn't translate, right? It's not going to translate. It just knows how to present the language properly.
So can I use 2 or more languages?
No, for document. You'd have to switch to it. You'd have to switch to a different document, right?
Okay, okay, I see.
Okay. Good question. I like these questions. Then I learned something too, right? So okay, so let's add some content. So all the content's going to go in the wrapper, right? Notice though what's happening here, right? So the body and the head are indented one time because they're inside the HTML, but now the div is indented 2 times because it's inside the body, right? And the same for meta and title because they're inside the head. So this is the sort of nesting tree that happens. Now I'm going to type stuff in between the div tag, so I'm going to indent them a third time. I just use the tab key, right? The tab key on your key, and don't use the space bar. That's not going to make it, the space bar won't line things up nicely. Use the tab key. All right, so I want to type the main heading of the page, which is H1. And let's say we're going to call this, I don't know, I don't even know what to call it. My plants or trees. Okay. All right. So I've added something to the page. This is actually content, right? So I'm going to save this, and then I go over here and I reload, and I see trees there. Okay. I want to put a subheading there. H2. What am I going to say here? I'm just making stuff up. You can type whatever you like. So I have a subheading in H2. I save that, and then I reload, and it's a little bit smaller. Now, the main thing about this is not that it's going to make it smaller or bigger, because we're going to be able to modify these things, the size and the color and many other things when we get to CSS in a moment. But the main thing is about relative importance, right? So the most important thing on your page is going to be the main heading. So that's going to be styled with H1. The second most important thing is this secondary heading. If you have one, you don't have to have an H2 if you don't want one, is going to be the H2. Okay. Next, I'm going to put a paragraph. Paragraphs, all paragraphs have the P tag. So temporarily, I'm just going to put blah, blah, blah. And then I close the P tag. And I'm going to put a second paragraph. And I'll put yada, yada, yada. There. Right. Now I've added 2 paragraphs. So meaningful. So I save that and reload, and I have those 2 there. Now on Tuesday, I showed you this really good resource for putting dummy text in place so that you know what it looks like on the page. So for example, like for you, let's say you decide that you already know that you're going to have 15 pages on your website, and you know you need, for whatever, let's say you've made the decision, you're going to write, you're going to create a website about something, right? And you know, and you've already decided that you're going to put 5 paragraphs. You don't have to, I'm just making this up. You're going to put 5 paragraphs on each page, right? So you need to know what that looks like, right? And so you need to see how much space it takes up. And so, but you haven't written your text yet, right? So sometimes you need to know what it looks like before you write the text. And so we use this resource. It's called Lorem Ipsum. Designers use it all the time. So I'm going to show you a website. There's more than one website, but this is the one that I use. It's called lipsum.com. It's dummy text that it fills up a spot that you need. And so you can kind of get an idea of how much space the text is going to take up. You can get an idea of what it's going to look like, right? If you need to, how you're going to design it, if you're going to make it bigger or smaller or this color or that color, what does it look like? So this is a description of it. It's actually in Latin. If you read Latin, good for you. You can read the text that we're about to copy. I don't. You can always tell me. But it's a real Latin text from about 2,000 years ago. There we go. Now, you click on this button. You can tell it however many paragraphs or words that you need. The default is 5 paragraphs. So I'm going to click on the button, generate. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs of lorem ipsum. So I'm just going to copy one of these, highlight it and copy it. And I'm going to paste it between the first 2 p tags. And I'll get a second paragraph and paste it between the second 2 p tags. All right, so now I have 2 paragraphs, paragraph 1, paragraph 2. So since I've made some changes, I'm going to save this. And then I'll go and reload. Oh, it didn't save. There we go. Hold on a sec. Everybody get that? So now we have 2 paragraphs, right? Now I'm going to space this out a little bit just to make it a little easier to read. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I think when I present my code to you, it's easier if stuff has a little bit of space. This doesn't change the way the document looks. So I've just hit enter, add a space, hit enter, add a space, hit enter, added a space, but that doesn't change the way this looks at all. So you can do almost anything to the code here, and it's not going to change much to the way it looks here. Questions so far? Nope. Okay. We'll do a little bit more, and then we'll take a quick break. So I just want to do a couple more things before we take the break, okay? All right. So this is a review essentially of what we did on Tuesday, and then I'll add more stuff after break. So there are other tags that we're going to talk about today. Right now, and this is something I mentioned on Tuesday, is what we have here is the H1, the H2, the first paragraph, and the second paragraph, right? So you'll notice that each one is on its own line. The H2, even though there's a whole bunch of space next to this where it says trees, is all this blank space. So you might think, why didn't this code go up here in that blank space? Well, that's because the H1 is what we call a block tag. And a block tag takes up the whole, like from margin to margin, right? So the H1 goes all the way across the page. And that's why H2 can't fit up there, because all of this space is part of the H1. The same for H2 though, right? H2 has all this space over here. The paragraph doesn't go up there because the H2 goes all the way across the page from margin to margin. The same for the paragraph, the same for the other paragraph. These are all called block tags. Later, we'll tell the browser to treat them differently if we need to. So for example, if we really, really, really wanted the H2 to be sitting next to the H1, we could do that. We will just tell it not to behave in this way, but to behave in a different way. So there are ways of changing the behavior of the different tags. But for now, just think of it this way. Every block tag lines things up one on top of the other, like block, 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 lined up vertically one on top of the other. just like it'll just march down the page. Okay, but there are some tags that don't do that. We call them inline tags, right? Inline tags. Inline tags are just remain in the line. So for example, I want to make these two words bold, for example. So I use a pair of tags called strong. Strong marks the beginning of the bold, and then we need another strong tag to mark the end of the bold. So that means those two words only are going to be bold. If I didn't put the closing tag, it'll make everything bold. So for example, let me take it off and show you how that works. If I accidentally left off the closing strong tag, when I reload my page, notice everything gets bold. That's because it thinks that everything after that strong tag is bold, right? Even the other paragraph. But no, I want the closing tag so that we only have, oops, those two words are bold. Okay, let's see. What if I want to make a whole sentence italicized? So let's say I want this whole sentence. You can choose whatever sentence you want. I'm going to make all of that italicized. To make something italicized, we use the EM tag, which stands for emphasis. So I put the EM tag in front of the sentence that I want italicized, and at the end, like so. And then we see that that sentence is italicized. Okay. Finally, I mean, there are many others. I can't possibly tell you everything in the code. It's just not possible. HTML is not a big language, but it's too big to tell everything in one class, right? But you get the idea, a really good idea. By the end of this class, you'll know a lot of the HTML and how it works. I tell you like the most essential stuff and more. But let's go down to the next paragraph. Let's say I want, I don't know, this word to be both bold and italicized. Okay, we can do that. It doesn't matter which one we start with. Let's say I just start with italicized. So I put EM there. And I also want it to be bold, so I'll put strong there too. If I only want the one word to be bold and italics, then I need to close those tags right afterwards. But I have to close them in the opposite order, right? So if I open EM strong, then when I close it, it's the opposite order. Otherwise, it isn't nested properly. Okay, so now that word is both bold and italics. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay. I'm moving along. Let's see. Let us add a few links, just like Tuesday. I'm going to put them at the top here. Basically, the main thing about HTML is linking to other pages, right? Linking to other websites. So I want to add a few links here. I'll just follow the same process that I did in class on Tuesday. So I'll just put link 1, link 2, link 3. These are not links yet. These are just words, right? So when I save it and reload it, right, we just see the words here. Link 1, link 2, link 3. Notice they don't line up vertically. Here I line them up vertically, but they don't do that here. that's because you can hit enter as many times as you've seen and nothing changes over here, right? In order to make it so that they line vertically, if you want them to line vertically, then we have to use a tag. This is what we call a break tag. The break tag is what we call a hard return, meaning it forces everything to start on the next line. So if I put a break tag there, then the other two are underneath. If I put another one here, oops, then they're one on top of the other. Oh, I got rid of the two. You'll notice that the break tag does not come in pairs, right? It's one break tag and another break tag. It's not a pair. So that's why we put this slash at the end here, because it's singular. When they're singular, you put the slash at the end. If they're paired, right, like the head tag doesn't have a slash in the first one, but it has a slash in the second one that comes in front. But for these tags, which we call empty tags or single tags, they have the slash at the end. It'll still work if you don't put the slash there, right? If I don't put the slash there, it doesn't change anything. However, it's like typing proper spelling or something like that. It's just the right way to do it. Okay. So those add a hard return so that everything goes underneath. Let's actually turn those into links though. To do that, we use the A tag. For the word A stands for anchor. The A tag by itself does nothing. Well, it doesn't do anything, but you'll see it doesn't turn them into links. But we need it in order for this to work properly, right? So again, if I save and reload, nothing changes with the A tag. Because we're missing something. What we're missing is where do we want to link to, right? We need to tell it where to go when we click on it. So we're missing the directions, right? The address, the URL we call it. So that means it needs an attribute, right? So the A tag requires an attribute so that we can make it, when we click on it, so that it just goes somewhere else, right? So after the A, I want you to put a space, and then you put href. Now, since it's an attribute, we always type an equal sign and quotes. And then we have to type the web address to where we want to go. So I will go ahead and give you some, we'll just do this one site that I've given you. It's lorem ipsum. So you have to type the whole thing, right? It's http www.lipsum.com. For link 2, this is another site that I showed people on Tuesday, and it's http://color.adobe.com. And then another site I told everyone about is http su3schools.org.com. Sorry. So now, when I reload the page, they're all links. You should test them to make sure they work. The first one will take us to the lorem ipsum site. The second one will take us to the color.adobe.com site, which it does. Good, it works. And the third one will take us to this really good site called W3 Schools for tutorials and information about HTML. Let me know if your links don't work properly. I can help you if you can't figure out the problem. How's that? Did they work?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so how about this? Well, it's 11:10. Why don't we take a 10-minute break? You can do whatever you need to do. Go to the restroom, get something to drink, get something to eat. I don't care. Take a nap, but make sure you come back in 10 minutes or so. Okay. And we'll do some more. I'm probably going to keep you till around 12 or 12:30, something like that. Typically, I'll keep you 2.5 to 3 hours, even though the class is supposed to be significantly longer than that. Think of that time after as lab time. Or you can meet with me if you need to, like stay after class or whatever. I'm happy to meet with you. Okay. All right. So 10 minutes. You can stay in Zoom if you want. You can leave and come back if you want. It's up to you. Okay. But I'll stay here. See you in 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's up?
Um, this is Joshua. Hold on, let me just try to move my Zoom to my laptop because I missed like the previous part. Because when I like type all the codings, it doesn't shows as like a website. When I like save it as, it just shows like all the code stuff. Like,
Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen. So the main thing you're gonna want to do,
uh-huh.
and then I can take a break. The main thing you're gonna want to do is make sure that you name it index.html, and that's it. The name of your file.
Okay.
Is that what your file looks like? Index.html, no spaces.
Give me a second.
Now, are you on a Mac or a PC?
Mac.
And you can see the file extensions like mine?
Yeah.
Did that change it? Did that change anything?
Did I have to like rename it? Is that what we do?
Yeah, just rename it. Yeah. You can share your screen if you like, and I can take a look.
Yeah, I have a Zoom on my iPhone, so like because my computer was died, like just the part when you talk about like the files and the folders.
Ah, I see. You don't have a power.
Yeah, forgot to charge it.
Ooh, I hate the way the camera makes me look. What are you doing? What are you working on?
I'll just try to like, I think it says needs like updates on Zoom, and then
Okay, so let me take a break, and then as soon as we start, we'll take a look and see what's going on. Okay.
okay.
Hi, everybody. Excuse me.
Hey,
Okay, so Jishwan, why don't you tell me, were you able to get it to work?
Uh, can I like share my screen? I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
said,
I made you co-host, so why don't you?
it says host disable participate screen sharing.
Oh, I made you before, but okay. Did you leave and come back?
Yeah, I leave the one from my iPhone and then I said, all right. Uh,
All right. So yeah, I see the issue. So where's your folder? You didn't create a folder. How come? So you have it on your desktop, right?
yeah.
All right. So this is what I want you to do. On your desktop right now. First, let's why don't you close quit entire, did you save your code?
I save my code and then like when I click it on my desktop, it appears as bootloader should look.
Okay, there's a few issues. So why don't you close this
Uh-huh.
and then close the code editor also. Just quit it. Click on your code editor once, and then go to file. I mean, go to Sublime Text at the top left. Where is it at the top left? The other side, other one. No, other side left.
Oh,
No,
okay.
click on your code again,
Yeah.
and then where it says Sublime Text at the top left,
Uh-huh.
quit.
Quit it.
Yep.
Don't have to like save it though.
You have to save it first. Save it first. You just have to do Control or Command S rather. Command S. Oh, okay. I see. All right, fine. So now quit. All right. Now here on your desktop, I want you to create a folder
New folder.
and call it tutorial2. No spaces, no spaces, no spaces. Okay, hit enter. And then double click on it. And then inside the folder here, you're going to create 3 more folders. The first one is CSS. And then second one is images. And then HTML. Okay, so you have 2 documents there that you've created. Let's just try the first one that says untitled.html. No, not that one, not that one, that one, that one. The other one. Let's try that one. Put it not in the HTML folder, but just in your right next to it.
Like right here.
No, below. Yep. Okay. Now rename that file to index, INDEX, and hit enter. Okay. And then now, before you continue, the tutorial2 folder, do you see that?
Yeah.
So your Sublime Text app is on the desktop. Just drag the tutorial2 folder on and put it on the Sublime Text. Just drop it so that it'll open up in Sublime Text when you do that. Yeah, like that.
Okay.
Okay, you can close that. Yeah. All right, so click on that right there. There's your code. Great.
Okay.
Leave that open and go back to your folder. No, go back to your folder. And then just double click on index.
Okay, I got it. That's
Okay,
loud.
so there's some problems with your code, so let's fix it.
Uh-huh.
So just drag that over to the side so you can still see it. And then let's look at your code. Now, let's see. At the top, where you have line 9,
Mm-hmm.
that should be HREF.
HREF.
Right. And then after the F, put it, click right after the F, put an equal sign, and then quotation marks. And then in between there, type, I think I typed HTTP colon. So 2 dots. No, the 2 dots, not the semi. There you go. And then
Mhm.
// and then www.lipsum.com. Okay. Now after the quotation marks, click after the quotation marks. And then put the closing angle bracket. And then right there in that space, type link 1.
That is?
Yep. Now in the other one, right below it, line 11, where it says HREF, type HERF, type HREF. Okay, and then before the H, put quotes. And after com, put quotes. And then the closing angle bracket. And then link 2. And then the A needs to have the slash in both of them. The A needs to the slash in the first one and the second one. No, the end at the end.
Okay.
The slash in front of the A.
On the size in front of it. All right.
There you go.
Okay.
So those two will work. So save that and let's see what's going on.
Like
Well, we'll fix that in a second. Go ahead and save what you've got. Do not save as, not save as.
I'll say that. Okay.
Just save, cancel. And then go to your browser and reload. All right, now your links are there. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now everything is bold. That's because in line 19,
Yeah.
you didn't close the strong tag. So after ipsum, lorem ipsum, after the M in ipsum.
Lower the M in.
Lorem, the first 2 words after the second word.
Yeah.
Type the closing strong tag. Just a type, yeah, there you go. A slash. There you go. Now
Okay.
save.
Let's save it.
Just save, yeah. By the
Mhm.
way, the shortcut to save is Command S.
Yeah.
And then go to your browser and reload.
Okay. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
So by the way, so this is for everybody. I'm sure you're not the only one. If you get behind, you have to stop me, right? I will stop and let you catch up, okay? So don't hesitate to say, hey, Carter, slow down, stop. I need to look at that, you know, and that's, or it's not working. And so don't worry about it. The whole point of this class is me to keep you caught up, right? So so if you get behind, let me know, okay?
All right. Thank you, Professor. All right.
Sure.
Stop sharing.
Anybody else need help? Nope. Y'all are good? All right. Let's see. Do a bit more. Okay. So if you have some stuff that doesn't look like mine for now, that's fine. But if your page, doesn't look like mine at all, just let me know. If you only have like if you only have 2 links, that's fine. This, by the way, everybody, I'm going to be posting all the code on Brightspace as well, if I can. So you'll be able to see all the code that we type in class in Brightspace. So if you want to like fix yours or go over it, or if you need to remember what we did, it'll all be there. Okay, so what I'd like to do next is add a little color to this, a little styling. So that means we're going to use CSS. And so in Sublime Text, in the code editor here, over here in the folder where you see CSS, I want you to right click on CSS and choose new file. Now this will open up a new file here. You'll see it says untitled. We are going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to go to, it's the first time we save it, so we go to Save As. You want to make sure that the CSS folder is highlighted, right? Because we're saving it in the CSS folder. And then the name of the file is going to be styles.css. Okay. If you look over here, it'll be inside your CSS folder. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so first thing, like last class on Tuesday, to do is I want to give it a background color, right? So what are we styling? We're styling this section down here, right? Where all the content is. That's the body, right? That affects the entire page. So we put the thing that we type first is the element that we want to style. I want to style everything, right? The whole background. So it's body. That's what I'm styling. Now this is CSS, it's not HTML, so it will look a little different, right? It's different language. But this is the thing that I'm styling because in my index, right, it's everything here, right? I'm styling all of that. So I'm telling CSS, this is what I want to style. And I want to provide a background color for it. So I type next the curly brackets, which we call braces. They're next to the letter P on your keyboard. And then in between the braces, we type background color. Now I'm going to start just like on Tuesday, giving it a super bright red color. So I put the pound sign or the hashtag, and then I type FF0000. Okay. Now I'm going to save that. I've already saved it once, so I don't need to save as. I just save, which is on a Mac Command S and on a PC Control S. Now that's not going to change anything yet, right? When I reload the page, nothing happens. This is what we call the hexadecimal code for color. It's the code that we use for color for web pages. I'll talk more about what the hexadecimal code is next class. Hexadecimal means 16, so we'll talk about why it's like that. But this is actually a number for the color red. But it's not styling it red because I haven't connected this document with this document yet, right? I haven't connected the styles.css document with the index. So we need to make that connection here. And we do that inside the head section, underneath the title. So I hit enter and I type the link tag. Right? Line 6 now is the link tag. Now by itself, the link tag does nothing, right? Nothing happens. So it needs attributes to work properly. The first one is to tell the browser what kind of link am I creating? What sort of relationship am I establishing? So I put REL. And then since it's an attribute, I put equals and quotes. And then I type style sheet. Sure, what's going on here? Because I'm creating a connection between the HTML and the CSS. It's a style sheet relationship. And then the next thing, which actually creates the link, I have another attribute, a second attribute. So far, we've only seen one attribute, right? ID, character set, href, right? Only one attribute so far. Now we're going to have a second one. And we type href. And then equals again and quotes again. And then we type how to tell the browser to go from the index to the CSS, right? So the browser is going to say, I'm here in the index. Where is the style sheet? Well, it's located in the CSS folder. So then I type CSS. And then inside the folder, I put a slash to go inside the folder. And then the name of the file. The name of my file is styles.css, all in lowercase. So styles.css, all in lowercase. If yours looks different from that, you need to type it the way you typed it. So if you used uppercase or lowercase or whatever, a mixture, you need to type it exactly the same way as you typed it. Now, once you save that, then you reload your page in the browser and it should be red. Got a bunch of red pages?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, let's change it to a different color. So on Tuesday, I showed you a website for that. And I already put it in the link. It's color.adobe.com. I mean, this is a really good site if you're like thinking about how to combine colors with each other. So there's all these different color combinations you could experiment with. I basically, though, what we want is to like drag one of these circles next into the color that you like, right? So let's say I want something, I don't know, kind of purplish today. So I'm going to drag this to a light purple. Actually, let's make it dark. Why not a light dark? So I'm going to make it dark. Say kind of like this color right there, right? Let's just say I'm going to make it even darker. Or maybe even this color. I like that one better. So this has this little number underneath it. That's the hexadecimal code for that color. Or if you like that color, there's the hexadecimal code for it, right? So this is the one I want. In my case, it's 360C75. So I'm going to copy that. I'll go to my CSS. And instead of FF0000, I'll put that. Now I have to save it. So once I make that change, I save. And then I'm going to go to the browser and reload. we're going to spend a little bit more time with the CSS today because it's super important if you want to design your page to look a particular way. Now, as every time, I mean, since this is new, I'm going to be going over this again and more in future classes. So if you forget about it, like comes Tuesday and you forget, you're like, it's fine. Hopefully you won't. That's why we have homework, right, to help you remember. But I'm going to be covering over this again, right? So we're going to be doing it over and over and over again. Just like today, everything I've done so far, I did on Tuesday. And now we're going to do more new stuff, right? In this case, what we're going to do for the rest of the class is we're going to style this page. I'm going to show you how to put images in the page also. And I'm going to make, we're going to make lists, numbered lists and bullet lists. That's it. That'll be what we do today. That's my goal anyway. If we don't finish, we don't finish. But definitely we're going to style it and add images. And if we have time, we'll do lists as well. Okay, so what I want to style, notice when I made it dark, I can hardly see anything, right? So I want to change some of the values, the colors that I have in the page of the heading, the subheading, and the paragraphs and the links. So let's do that. The first thing I want to change is the main heading, which is the H1 tag, right? So in my index, we have the H1 tag, right? That's the element that I want to style. So underneath the closing brace for the body, we'll come back to the body. I'm going to put H1. That's the next thing I'm going to style. Then I put the brace again. Hold on, let me move this out here. And I'm going to style the color of that first. So the color of text it's not the background color, it's the color of the text. We just type the word color. And since I have to choose a color, well, I'm going to go back over here and get a color. Something lighter this time. So how about something in the kind of yellow-orange range, maybe? Not perfect white, but say I'm going to do that. You can choose whatever color you want. That's what I'm choosing. Let's see how that looks. I have to save it and then reload. It's too white. I want to make it a little bit less white. So maybe a little bit more. Let's see what that looks like. So trial and error, right? That's the name of the game here until you get a color that you like. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's just, yeah, it's a little bit better. Now, I don't just want to change the color. I want to change the font and lots of stuff, right? So how about we do that next? I'm going to put font family, like so. Now for font family, not everyone has the same fonts in their computers. So we have to give options to the computer. If they don't have one font, then it goes to the next one. If they don't have that one, then it goes to the third one. Later, I'm going to show you what we call online fonts, web fonts. And so that will style the page with fonts that are already online, right? Then they don't have to rely on what the user has in their computer. It'll be rendered exactly the same for everybody. But for our sake today, we're going to use some standard fonts that most people have in their computer. Everybody has in their computer. Helvetica is what we call a sans serif font. And so if people don't have Helvetica, the next best thing is Arial. And then if people don't have that, then whatever the default sans serif font is, we just put sans serif like so. Okay, I'm going to save that. And let's take a look and see what that looks like. It turns it into a sans serif font. And it's Helvetica. How about we modify the size. So font size. And let's say, I don't know, I'm gonna make it quite big. So let's say 48 pixels. Maybe even bigger than that. Say 64. Okay. All right. Next, we'll come back, we'll do more. Let's go ahead and do H2. So H2. We're going to do the color here also. So color, what color do I want? A little bit, let's make it a lighter version of purple, of that purple. So I'm going to go back to the purple. I'll make it a little bit lighter though. So maybe that color. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, I didn't somehow got rid of that. So I save that and reload. There we go. That's fine for me for now. I don't have to belabor making it perfect. I'm going to give the same font family as this one. So I'm going to copy that and paste it. And reload. And I'm going to change the size. It's not going to be nearly as big as that. I still like copying and pasting because it's easier than having to type everything over and over and over again. So let's say 42. See how big that makes it. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe a little less. 48. Okay, so let's then move on to the paragraph. We're starting out just the same way. We're going to do the color, the font family, and the size to start with. So color, let's see what color I want. I want it to be a little bit darker than that, so but not too dark. So I'll try that. Let's see what that looks like. That's fine. Don't love it, but it's fine. I don't want to work too hard on styling. Again, the same font family, but a different size. Let's say 18. How's that coming? Oh, excuse me. Anybody having trouble?
Yeah, great.
All right, so there's something about this that I don't love, and that is whenever I make my page really big, right, the text goes all the way across, and find that really hard to read and stuff. So I'm going to change that a bit. And this is where we get to the div, right? Remember we typed this, and it has this ID called wrapper. Now later, not today, but in future classes, we're going to use more than one div tag per page. But I want this div to be styled in a very particular way. This one, the wrapper. And so I'm going to, instead of using the body or the H1 tag or H2 tag or P tag, I'm going to use not the div tag, but the wrapper ID to style it. Because if I have other divs, then I don't want them to look like this too. So I'm going to go back to my styles here. It doesn't really matter the order that you type this in CSS, but I like to kind of keep the same order that I have it in the CSS. Since in my document here, I start with a body and then the wrapper is next. I'm going to put that next up here. That's just my preference, but you don't have to do that. I just like to keep it in similar order, in the same kind of hierarchy. All right, so since this is not a tag, I can't just type wrapper because it's not a tag. It's an attribute, right? It's the ID. So since it's an ID, I put the hashtag first or the pound sign. It's different from the body H1, H2 because it's not a tag, right? The div is the tag, wrapper is the ID. So I put the hashtag wrapper. Then I do it otherwise the same way. So, well, what do I want to do to this? How about temporarily, I'm going to add a different background color, but just temporarily, just so we can see what's going on. So I'm going to put background color temporarily. Again, only temporarily am I going to give it a background color. I'm going to make it black, which is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. All right, so when we do that, we'll see that anywhere where there's content is black. Now that'll change because we're not going to keep it at black, but for now, just so we can see what we're doing. Sometimes it's good to style something with a color and then you take it away, and I'll show you what happens when we take it away too. So anyway, so there we go. Now I want to change the width of the wrapper, the width. I want it to be, say, only 60% of the width of the browser window. 60% of the width of the browser window. So when I put that in save and reload, it's a little bit more than half the width of the browser. Right? Now, however big I make the browser is how big it changes the width of the wrapper, because it's a 60% of the browser window, whatever the browser window is. Right, so if I make it bigger, see how the wrapper gets bigger, right? If I make it smaller, the wrapper gets smaller. Now, I don't like that. I'm actually going, I want that wrapper to be right in the middle. I don't want it to be over to the left-hand side. I want it to be right in the middle. So there's a little bit of the background on one side and a little bit of the background on the other side. So how do I do that? Basically, it's centering it, right? So we put margin 0 auto. Again, this is going to come up more later, and I'll explain a little bit how that works. But this, sometimes you can't just do something simple like center, unfortunately. But when I do that, it centers that whole thing in the middle of the browser window, which I think looks better. than it did. Okay. The next thing I want to do is get rid of the black background. So instead of 0000 here with the hashtag, I just put none. So the background for the wrapper is none. I think just adding that space makes everything much better, in my opinion. It just feels like there's breathing room, you know, it just feels much nicer to me. I also am going to center the headings, the heading and subheading. So they're right in the middle. So that's for H1 and H2, right? That's where it says trees and some deciduous trees. So for H1, we put text align center. And we do the same thing for H2. So H1 and H2, I'm aligning to the center, but not the P. I kind of like it better to the left, but I just want to show you that. For the P, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm not going to align it to the center. Hold on a sec. I can't do. I'm going to justify. That's for the P. I'll show you what that does. It lines up both edges so that they have a hard edge on both sides. That's another option for alignment. How do things look?
Looks good.
Anything you have questions about, want more information?
Is there a way to do the two paragraphs separately?
There
like,
is,
yeah.
but typically you don't do that, but yes, there is, and we'll do that in future classes, I promise.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Lastly, let's do the links. Now, there's a lot we can do with links, but I'm just going to show you really one quick way to deal with them. But there's a lot more we can do with links because they're interactive, right? So for links, right, all the links are have the A tag, right? So we're going to put A to style the links. And I'll change the color, right, first again. Again, doesn't matter the order. I could have typed any of this in different order. It doesn't matter. So color, what color do I want the links? How about, let's do something super bright, let's say. Magenta. Let's do, I don't want to do magenta. How about something orangey to make it stand out? Not brown, but orange. Okay, maybe let's see what that looks like. Yeah, not bad. Okay, I'll do the font. I'm going to use the same font family just for today. Make them all the same. And let's make the size. Four. And how about we make them bold? Okay. There's more we can do, but for now, we're just going to leave it at that. I don't want to do too much at once. I like the pop of color that the orange brings. All right. One last thing we're going to do with regard to color here. Remember in the index, we use the strong tags and the EM tags. So let's style those. If we want, let's say I just want them to be slightly different color, not a majorly different color, but slightly different, just so it stands out a little bit more. I can style them. And I'm going to style the color of the strong and the EM at the same time. So we can do that. We type strong and then a comma and then EM because they're going to get the same color. And then I put the color in here, right? Color. I want it to be kind of the same as the paragraph color, but a little bit different. A little bit warmer, maybe. So let's see, that paragraph color was something like, oops, didn't mean to do that. It's too blue. Something like that. So maybe a little pinker. Let's see what that does. Maybe I wouldn't normally do that, but that's just to show you we could if we wanted to. Can I move on? Is everybody still working on this, or are you okay?
I'm good.
All right. What about the rest of you? Still working?
Oh, great.
Okay, so 2 of you.
I'm good.
All right. All right, since nobody's said anything, I'm moving on. A few of you have, the rest of you haven't. So I'm going to move on. The last thing I want to do today is add an image to the page. Alrighty. So if we want an image, we need to get an image, right? So I'm going to go to Google Images. Now, maybe you know, maybe you don't. I'm going to show you the right way to download images and tell you why. So I'm just, since I said trees, I'm going to look up trees. I'll look up deciduous trees, actually. And I'm going to go to my images at the top. And I'll pick one of these, I guess. So when you're looking at images in Google, I'm sure all of you have done this before. When you're looking at images in Google, these are not the images you want, right? Because these are really tiny. So I'm going to choose one. I don't know which one I'm going to choose. Maybe something with orange in it, since I have a little bit of orange. Let's do that. This is also not the image that you want, right? Now, lastly, when you're looking for images, you can also choose to choose just large images. I recommend that you generally look for larger images. So you can click on the tools. After you clicked on images, you click on tools if you've never done this before. Then you go to size and choose large. So it researches, that image is still there. So I'll click on that again. When you mouse over it, it generally tells you how big it is. This is quite big, but not this one. This is not the one that's so big. So that's not the one I want. How do I get the one that's that big? It's really huge, actually, 5,000 pixels. I wouldn't, so if that's the one that I want the big one, then what do? I right click on this image and choose Save Image As, or something like that, depending on which browser you're using. I'm using Firefox, but it's basically the same thing. You're going to choose Save Image As, or Save File As, or Download Image, or something like that, whatever it says in the browser. So I'm choosing Save Image As. I'm sorry, that's not even true. I made a mistake. It's Open Image in New Tab first, because I'm not downloading this image. I want to open the big one, which is this image here. Sorry, my bad. So once again, right click, Open Image in New Tab. And then what opens over here will be the larger version. Now, not always. Sometimes it's really tiny. If it looks really tiny, then the large image is being blocked. So you'll have to look for a different image. But mine is really big, so this is the one that I want. So I'm going to choose Save Image As on this image, the large one. When I choose Save Image As, I want to make sure I save it to my images folder. All right, put it in your images folder. And look at the name. It's really weird. It's when you download images from the internet, it usually has all these letters and numbers and stuff. What's important is the last 3 letters. Right, the last 3 letters need to either be JPG or GIF or PNG. So if you scroll to the end, you'll see mine is .jpg. I want to leave it there as .jpg, but the rest of it I'm going to change. I'm just going to put trees. I want a simple name, right? So I'm naming it trees, and I'm putting it in my images folder, trees.jpg. But you can't just add that. If it was a PNG, you can't change it to JPG. If it's some other file type, like GIF, you can't change it to JPG. You have to download it as whatever it is. So mine was a JPG, so I'm leaving JPG, but I'm just getting rid of all those numbers and putting trees instead. So it's trees.jpg, and I'm putting it in my images folder, and I'm clicking on save. Okay. So if I look at my images folder now, there it is, trees.jpg in my images folder. Make sure you look in your images folder, make sure it's there. Okay, I'm going to put it in my index. And I want it to be at the very, very top, right above the links. So I put it up here, right underneath the where it says the div ID equals wrapper. And to put an image in the page, we need the img tag. It doesn't have a pair. It's like the break tag, right? With the slash at the end. img comes by itself. By itself, the img tag doesn't really do anything. So it requires an attribute. So I put a space. And the attribute is src, not scr, src. If you put scr, it won't work. It means source, right? The image source. Then equals in quotes as before. Oops. Okay, and then in between the quotes, we have to tell the browser where to find the image. If you remember, we saved it inside the images folder, right? So the first thing we type is the location of the images. We tell the browser, hey, go look in the images folder. You make sure that you type the name the way you saved it, the way you typed it when you made the folder. Same exact way. If there's uppercase or a mixed case, use the same case. Then we type the name of the file. In my case, it's trees.jpg, all lowercase. And that's that. Now my image is gigantic, so I'm going to have to modify it. I'll show you how to do that. So when I reload my page, my image is going to take up a lot of, there it is, it's huge. And my code is way down here, so it's way too big, right? So I have to modify the way that looks. Did anybody have problems putting their image there? Since nobody's talking, why y'all are so silent? I'm going to move ahead. So I have an image there. I want to make it look different. I want it to fit into the wrapper. So I'm going to go to the styles and I'm going to style the image. So I'll put IMG here. And width 100%, but it's 100 since the image is inside the wrapper, right? Remember, my wrapper is only 60% wide, right? So since the image is inside the wrapper, it's going to be 100% of the width of the wrapper. So when I do that, it looks like that. But it gets bigger as I make the browser window bigger. Smaller as I make it smaller.
Uh, how can you know is it inside the wrapper?
Well, that's a very good question. If I go to my index,
Yeah.
I type the wrapper here, right? And then the image is in between the div tag for the wrapper, right?
Okay.
Right. So everything I typed, all this is inside the wrapper,
Okay.
right? Because there it is opening and there it is closing.
Okay.
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 All right. That's more than enough for one day. To remind you, there is homework. I'm going to go to so this is class 2, right? So this is the homework for class 2. If I go there, you'll have the homework outlined there, right? And that's what I'd like for you to do. If you want to go to content, you can check the video tutorials section, and I have class 1 and class 2, right? These two go along with what we did today and Tuesday. Okay. So I go to class 2. You have video 1, video 2, and then the homework is repeated here also. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So when you're submitting your homework, make sure you follow those instructions, okay? If you need help with that, let me know. It's basically you have to submit the entire folder. So when you submit your assignments, you're going to submit like the whole tutorial 2 folder, right? Not this, not that, not this, and not that. We need the whole folder, right? The whole folder has to be zipped up. So in a Mac, you just right click and choose compress, right? And then it creates a zip file, a tutorial2.zip. That's what I want. I want a zip archive. Okay. Only a zip archive, right? Not there's other kinds of archive files, but only a zip. Okay. All right. that's what you'll be submitting. Again, if you need help, you can feel free to email me, send me a message on Discord, whatever you like. If, like I said before, if any of you want Discord moderator privileges, feel free to let me know and I'll give you privileges. Yeah, send me an email for that. That way I'll just do it when I have a chance as soon as possible, okay? And when you tell me that you want it, make sure I know what your ID is in Discord, because it may be different than your actual name. I'm sure it is. So, okay. All right, and it can be more than one person. It doesn't have to be just one person. All right, so if you want to chat with me now, feel free. Otherwise, I'll see y'all on Tuesday. Have a good weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Have a good one.
Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is the please can you show me the Brightspace page?
You don't see Brightspace?
Yeah, I can see, but it talk to easily.
So you want to see, what do you want to know?
Let me see. Brightspace. Okay. Yeah. What is a screenshot of my folder system?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good question. So do you so you'd want to take a picture of your screen?
Okay, including everything.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, okay. I see.
Basically what I want to know, right? What you're going to do, I'll show you. I want to see this mainly,
Okay.
which tells me your folder organization.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to see the the main folder here, right? And these folders and this, right? I mean, what kind of computer do you have? You have a Windows computer or Mac?
My one is
Windows. So, I mean, this view where we see columns,
yeah.
that's fine. Any view you have is fine. I don't care how it looks. I just want to see your folder system.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to see my process, like
Exactly.
yeah. And
do you know how to take screenshots?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think I can just add some links to add to today's one.
So what do you mean?
The homework, the first homework. Yeah.
So you can just make sure you follow the instructions.
Yeah.
But if you want to do more, you can always do more. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have more.
Yeah, I can just add 2 or more links.
Sure.
For today's one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Of course.
And the last question is.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Just in your second announcement in Brightspace, maybe the second one.
The one from this morning?
Not this morning, but maybe yesterday.
Oh, so I apologize for that. So there's a whole, the only ones that, let me show you my screen. I meant to talk about that today. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. So what happens is I've taught this class before many times.
Yeah, so just copy and paste.
Well, no, Brightspace has this option to copy a course
Yeah.
and create a new course with the course.
So you
And-
did just
It
Okay.
doesn't let me, it included all of my announcements.
yeah.
And so that's wrong. Since Brightspace is new for me, like,
Yeah.
because in Stony Brook, we just started using Brightspace this year.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to take away I don't want the announcements. I want
Yes.
everything else. So
So the due date is
these are the only two. You can delete them if you want, but these are the only two, the welcome one
Yeah.
and the Zoom info from today. Everything else you can delete if you can. I don't know if you can.
so is the deadline as written on the Brightspace?
The deadlines for the assignments, if you go to assignments, you'll see the deadline here.
Yeah. So as written,
What?
as written on the Brightspace, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
Exactly.
May 30th. Okay.
That's Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I see.
If you have a question, if you think it's the wrong day, send me an email, because it might be, because I make mistakes, right? So sometimes,
Okay.
so if you think, is that the right day? If you want to be sure, just send me a message. I'll be happy.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a Discord message. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, because if it's wrong, then everybody's going to do it wrong, right? So if you find something,
Yeah.
so it's possible that I could get it wrong. Believe me, I make mistakes all the time. So,
Okay.
so if you find a mistake, tell me, hey, that's wrong. Fix it.
Okay, I see.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so far so good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend. Okay.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.